I'm very delighted about the opportunity to being able speaking to you today. And the topic we are talking today is an issue of particular economic and social relevance, at least in my perception. Italy and Austria are an exceptional good example for the rise and the importance of this kind of industry today. These groups formed in recent decades an integrated offering across the entire value chain and built stronger relationships with very valuable brands through and with a very high degree of customer loyalty which used to be or established during the last decades and are still very valuable today. But however, this loyalty, as we can see here, is crumbling, as we can see on this slide here. Apologies for the German language here on this slide. But it is a recent newspaper articles, and for the non-German speakers here, I want to translate the headline here. It means Luxusbetten bleiben leer, budget hotels boom. So luxury hotels stay empty, but budget hotels are booming. And that's a very recent article. And that gives us a certain taste of the kind of change we experienced during the last, let's say, 12 months, particularly since we got in this recession. And one of the effects we can see here on this slide here, the brand loyalty, brands like Thomas Cook or TUI, but also on a very international level, it would be brands like Marriott or like Hilton. If you have a distinctive business model in operation and the business model offers the consumer a certain value proposition which is easy to understand and which where you don't need to do a lot of investigation or research work, this is half the way to catching the consumer and within the booking process. But so come back to what I mentioned before, one of our core principles in Google and what made the company during the last years so successful is focus on the user and all else will follow. And this is, it's best to do one thing really, really well. And that's what we always should keep in mind when we are talking about business models and doing business in a certain environment. And as we all know, the more informed the consumer gets, the rougher the environment will be. So the development that travelers will also increasingly take short trips, on the other hand, past completely the traditional travel agency business. Most of these short-term trips were booked via low-cost airlines, just like I mentioned before, like Ryanair. So flows of money have been redirected during the last decade. Consumer behavior is nowadays much more diversified than it used to be 1 or 2 decades ago. And they have individual interests. And this is, as I mentioned before, what we call the long tail. We see a general trend of an increase of search queries of roughly 20%. So if you take this line, this was the search query volume in 2008. And this is the search query volume in 2009. And we could imagine the search query volume in 2010, and so on. Now that we discussed the basic numbers in electronic tourism, we can talk about the fundamental success factors. And one of the main drivers for success in the internet economy is the principle of convenience. So your offer has to be as convenient as possible for the user. And this is, by the way, also one of the core Google success factors, and we call it the KISS principle, keep it stupid and simple. So feel free to come to me later on if you want to see some other good examples what is going on in the travel industry. And before I am in trouble, I want to close now and say thank you very much for your patience. I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope I could give you a small taste what there is going on in the virtual world.